The most recent quote from Mark Zuckerberg of Facebook. I want to be clear about what our priority is. Protecting our community is more important than maximizing our profits. So says Mark Zuckerberg.
Yeah, right. Pull the other one.
You don't buy it? Well, you're cynical.
Mark
These are
Zuckerberg
cynical times.
will be grilled for a day or two in front of Congress. He will be apologizing and falling all over himself to assure everybody that their representative, all that is good and decent, I'm sure. Let's ask Jascha Kaykas Wolff about that. Mr. Wolff Kaykas Wolff is the chief marketing officer for Mozilla. Here to talk about Facebook's privacy fails and the other aspects of this. Jascha, how are you, sir?
I'm doing very well. Thanks for having me, guys.
Oh, it's our pleasure. First of all, big Firefox fan. Big fan.
Hey, thank you very much. I appreciate that. We appreciate that.
All right. Keep up the good work, would you? Because you guys are very different from Facebook, just in the way... Well, what is
You're
Mozilla?
not evil.
Well, for instance, what is Mozilla?
Well, we appreciate that. And you called out something really important for us. We build Firefox, and hundreds of millions of people use Firefox all over the world. But we're actually an advocacy organization as well. And we've been around for about the last 20 years, focusing in on one mission behind this purpose of keeping the internet open and available for everyone. So our belief is that the internet is one of the greatest public resources and that it should be available for everyone to get into. Every content that wants to be up there needs to be up there. And ultimately, every individual should be able to control the experience that they have online.
Okay, interesting.
So we're a lot more than just building technology.
So then I'm guessing you don't want regulation on Facebook, which might come out of today and tomorrow's hearings.
Well, here's the thing about what's going on with the internet right now. We don't see the internet as a particularly healthy place. And we'd like it to be healthy. And the reason we don't think it's healthy right now is because there has been a tremendous amount of consolidation in organizations over the course of the last 20 years that work on the internet. And the byproduct of that is that many of these organizations aren't treating people and people's information, like our data, your data, my data, respectfully. And we think that needs to change. So if the status quo gets changed because governments get involved or individuals start to speak up, we're actually okay with status quo changing because right now it's just not working.
You think we can thread that needle and bring some accountability without quashing the creativity and innovative energy of the web?
You know, I have been in the technology industry for almost the last 20 years, and I've seen a lot of changes on the internet. And what I have supreme confidence in is that when something changes, the dynamics of businesses, the power of the internet is that those businesses can innovate around those changes. So I'm super confident that if regulation comes, if individuals speak up and companies need to change because they have to serve them differently, that the internet's going to be around and support whatever changes need to happen.
What do you expect to hear out of Mark Zuckerberg in front of Congress the next day or two?
Well, I read some of the prepared testimony, and we see that it admits some mistakes, right? Like Zuckerberg will most likely admit some mistakes, but I think where we end up is that there's a failure to recognize that they should be serving people over profits. And my intuition is that it's going to fall a little flat rather than assuage a lot of the concerns that I think individuals have and legislators have right now.
Here's what I've been wondering. I'm just wondering if humankind can handle a whole bunch of information with no editors.
Matt, that is probably one of the biggest issues that exist right now. I kind of have this picture in my mind of a robot and a lawyer and mashing the two together. And I think that technology companies, by and large, treat people like that mashup of the robot and the lawyer. Like you and I, we've all gone and chosen to use a product, downloaded an app on one of our phones, and we get this thing called a terms of service. And that terms of service is like tens of thousands of words, and it's hundreds of pages. And there's some crazy expectation that these technology companies have that you and I can read it and understand it all. And it's just a farce. Right? Like technology companies need to start treating people like human beings, not like these robotic lawyers.
Well, yeah, but that's a great metaphor because that's exactly what it is. It's we're checking a box for the lawyers. There's no expectation by anybody on earth that anybody's reading or comprehending that stuff. So it's just to protect them from legal action.
That's right. I mean, risk mitigation, and that's a function of many legal organizations. I think that there's a paradigm that we can change, though. I think that when technology companies take a step to try and communicate to people in a language that they understand, like colloquial language, it can actually be possible.
Mark Zuckerberg's going to be digging around in your panty drawer. That sort of thing?
Well, not that.
Maybe a little too colloquial.
Right. So I'm not going to toot our horn too much, but we work with our legal department. I'm in the marketing guy, and I work with our legal department quite a bit. And oftentimes that's a confrontational relationship in many organizations because the marketing team's like, I want to do something. And the legal team's like, you can't do that. It's going to introduce risk. In our case, we actually have a really good relationship with them. And together we work on trying to introduce language that makes sense. If you were to go to firefox.com/privacy and read that page, we were to read it together, you would be able to understand exactly what Firefox is doing with your information if you choose to use Firefox.
Wow.
And that's important.
So you're hoping the free market, and I mean, I generally like free market arguments, you're hoping the free market over time will work where websites will, rise to the top that have a one easy-to-understand page that you agree to. Look, we're not going to use your information and not give it to anybody, blah, blah, blah. And then the places that are ripping you off with 100-page mumbo-gumbo will go away? Is that what you hope for?
Or they'll be forced to change. The most promising part of all that has happened over the past few weeks, and to be clear, we've been focused a lot, not we as Mozilla, but the industry and mainstream media have been focused a lot on Facebook and Cambridge Analytica, but more broader, the public market discussion where individuals, people, you, me, all three of us are saying, what's going on with the personal data is confusing, and I don't like it, and you need to change. That discussion is incredibly important. And this is actually really unique in the course of the last 20 years of the history of the Internet, or 20-plus years of the history of the Internet. This kind of public market discussion hasn't happened. Privacy and security is a shutdown topic. It is, you say privacy and security, and everybody's eyes glaze over, but it's becoming more important, and it's a mainstream discussion, and that's really encouraging. It's really encouraging for an organization like ours.
Jascha Kaykas Wolff is Mozilla's chief marketing officer. Hey, you've been very diplomatic, but I heard a German activist, I don't recall his name, but I guess he's a pretty big guy in this sort of thing, say he debated Mark Zuckerberg about what they were doing with data and who they were giving it to 6 years ago in Vienna, and that he's going to say, we're sorry, we owe the oversights, mistakes were made. But he's been doing precisely what he's set up his company to do for the last several years. It hasn't been mistakes so much as execution of the game plan.
Look, the reality is that the internet and technology businesses have operated with one single mindset for the past, let's call it the last decade. They've turned on the Hoover vacuum, and they've sucked up as much personal information as they possibly could about everybody. And the promise of sucking up all this data is that as a business, they can find some magic growth equation, and it's going to make their business successful. That practice, I don't know exactly the name of the person that you were talking about in Germany, but that practice of collecting tons of information and hoping to find an answer that grows your business does happen, and it should stop. It needs to change. And this is the kind of free market argument. Like when individuals that use these services speak up and say, I'm not okay with it anymore, or vote with their feet by using the products less, that's when change can happen in the ecosystem of the internet in particular.
Jascha Kaykas Wolff of Mozilla. Jascha, really enjoyed the chat. I hope we can do it again.
Really enjoyed the time. Thanks for having me, guys.
Thanks a million. Yeah. Interesting.
He used a phrase there I wanted to remember. Shutdown topic?
A shutdown topic.
We introduced too many of those on the show. Right. It's just a topic you bring up where everybody goes, oh, God.
No, I don't want it to. I got to go. Right. Wow.
No really, shutdown topics.
Really, really, really interesting stuff there. Very intriguing. I had a point I wanted to make.
Do you have confidence in humankind to choose the companies that are more careful and not just the cheapest company, for instance?
To some extent. I think the masses of people will get ripped off and used and abused and not know it because they don't have the time, the interest, or the intellect to figure it out. And there are very, very, very smart people who are trying to exploit them. So I don't know.
Like I would like to use a search engine instead of Google that vows that we're not collecting information at all.
Right. DuckDuckGo, right?
Is that any good?
Sure. As far as I know.
Well, we had a guest on recently who said it's how did he put it? It's unreasonable to think you're not going to use Google.
Yeah.
In the current landscape.
I don't know if that's true. I think one of the things in the modern age that we're too quick to do is just say, well, everybody's doing it, so everybody's going to do it. I could give up Google and Gmail in the next 24 hours. Maybe if I wanted to spend a couple hours, rerouting emails and the rest of it.
Could I set my phone up? Can I set my phone up to automatically use DuckDuckGo instead of Google?
I think so, yeah. Choose your search engine.
Maybe I'll try that.
Of course, I'd rather be ignorant than learn something on Bing.
DuckDuckGo claims they don't spy on you.
I think that's right. Don't quote me. You already did.
Joe Getty.
No, I don't. I think that's the one.
On April 10th said.
That swears privacy search engine. Somebody Google it.
I got it.
Yeah, it took you a minute.
Yeah.